Hi, I'm back, finally all set up at uni and thankfully managed to get quite a bit done since the last video. I've rethought the way research works, tripled the game's performance, designed the trading house interface, and more to come later in the video. The first addition though was making the trees in the forest grow over time. This was a little trickier than it might seem at first, as it needed to have zero effect on the performance of the game for the player. That meant running all the calculations for the aging up process on a separate thread to the main game. I got that working in the console, outputting a list of all the trees aging up each in-game time tick. Once I'd plugged that list into the main game loop, the result was this: trees aging up over time. What's happening in the background here is each tree has a randomly assigned growth rate, which is added to a count out of 100 every time tick. When the count for a given tree reaches 100, that tree's position is added to a list, which is returned to the main game thread once the calculations are complete. The trees are then aged up in the game and their count out of 100 reset to 0. Right, so with that out of the way, I decided it was time to rethink the way research works. During playtesting, I've found the whole research system to actually really hinder the fun of the game. The forced waiting for new machines doesn't create much anticipation and feels more like a chore. I decided it would be better to give the player some limited options of what to immediately unlock. Based on what the player chose, more options will then be given to unlock. So if a saw is unlocked, the upgraded saw will then be available for unlock, etc. This is immediate feedback, but still creates a sense of progression. To implement this, I added a progress bar to the options in the build menu, and the first version looked like this. I didn't like that the sprites were visible, as the machine designed as a sort of reward for the player. The finished version looked like this. The player is shown the unlock price and has to click and hold until the progress bar completes before unlocking takes place. This means the player can't accidentally click and spend 10,000 amber on a machine they don't want. There's also something satisfying about watching the bar fill and finally complete. I'll probably be adding a bit more juice to this in the future, but it's good for now. The day after that, I moved back to uni. Once we'd packed up all my stuff into a van we'd hired for the day, we got on the road, a journey that normally takes about 4 hours. That would be the case if the van didn't decide to break down 2 hours in. The AA were called out, they fixed it, and 10 minutes down the road, it happened again. This time we waited 2 hours in a truck refueling station with not much to see other than an abandoned hotel. I did find £5 in some bushes though, so it wasn't a total waste of time. The AA turned up again and we eventually ended up with an entirely different van which got us to Sheffield safely at last. Anyway, once I'd settled back into university, I started by adding a count to the tree planter, which tells the player how many trees their budget accounts for. Just something I thought the game needed. After that, I discovered that I had some pretty poor performance. Running the Unity profiler, I discovered that the main issue was caused by the script running on each tree that's used for calculating depth. With 2,500 trees on the screen when zoomed out, this was a real issue. The fix was super simple though. I just had to run the script on the trees once when they're added to the world. As they never move, there was no need for the script to run every single frame. That helps a little bit, but there was still a drop of 70 frames per second when unlocking the whole map. Looking at the profiler again, I discovered that the problem was now being caused by animator components running on each and every tree. This allows the trees to age up, and for other animations I'll be adding later, but really has a big effect on the performance. I fixed that by adding some code to turn off any animators that aren't actively playing at that moment. That made a huge difference, and now a completely unlocked forest of 2,500 trees runs as well as a forest showing just 100 trees, as they're pretty much just sprites now. Around 100 FPS on my computer in Unity. Obviously that'll vary from computer to computer, but that's a big difference. The last thing I did was design the trading house interface. This will be where the player tracks and manages orders from companies in the game. These will be for all kinds of wood products, from logs to fully assembled furniture. If you haven't seen my last 2 videos on the assembler and CNC machines, I've added a link to the first of them in the corner of this video. So the interface will have 4 spaces for orders, and there are 2 types of orders. We'll call them batch orders and ongoing orders for now. Batch orders are for a specified number of items, so 10 chairs for example, whereas an ongoing order is for a specific item over a set period of time, and you can make as many items as you can in that time. The price, the item, the company logo, and the progress of the order are all shown on the interface, and the player can decline or accept orders here too. The game is available for wishlisting on Steam, so if you're interested in playing it, definitely head over there. The link is in the description. That's all for this week. If you liked the video, do remember to subscribe and wishlist the game. If you want to follow more closely, feel free to join the growing Discord. Cheers for watching.